Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. It is officially draft season for NBA basketball. I am so excited to dive into the draft in this year's draft class. And today I'm going to start it off with what is, in my opinion, one of the most intriguing prospects of this year's draft, a guy who's going to get picked in the late lottery or early 20s of the draft that can end up being one of the better players of this draft. And I am, of course, talking about Jett Howard. Let's dive into Jett Howard, talk about his strengths, weaknesses, and at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you guys what his potential can be at the NBA level. So Jett Howard is, of course, the son of Michigan legend Juwan Howard, a guy who ended up having a very successful long career in the NBA as well. But diving into Jett here, he is a 6'8" small forward wing hybrid out of Michigan. Again, like I just said, he's 19 years old and he will be 20 years old in September of this year. He had one season at Michigan, and in 29 games at Michigan, he played 32 minutes a game, so he was one of the players who really got a significant amount of playing time for the Wolverines. He had 11.4 field goal attempts per game. He shot 41.4% from the field, 49.6% from two-point field goal percentage, 36.8% from three on 7.3 attempts per game, which is a significant sample size, especially for a one-year prospect out of college. He shot 80% from the free throw line, 2.8 rebounds a game, 2 assists per game, and he did average 14.2 points per game. So right away, let's dive into some strengths for Jett Howard. What does he do well out there on the basketball court? First and foremost, and this is a trait I love out of a prospect, especially a late lottery guy, he's an incredible off-ball offensive threat, just a very overall good offensive player on the off ball. He's a very good space creator off ball. He's a guy who's content with running around screens in order to get his open shot. He shot 38.6% from three on catch and shoot this season, and he absolutely has NBA range on his shot. He consistently, no matter where he was on the court, if he gets that split second opening on the perimeter, he's going to take that shot, whether that is contorting his body around a screen in that Kyle Korver-esque way in terms of squaring your shoulders to the basket, even though you're not entirely open, he's still going to get his shot up if he knows there's not going to be a great contest there. His quick, fluid, high release with no hesitation or hitch is something that really stands out to you about Jett Howard's game. You could tell he's had those world-class trainers, considering his dad was an NBA player when he was growing up. He's a guy who's had the correct form on his shot his entire life, and that's something that I love about Jett Howard, that really aesthetically pleasing shot that absolutely does translate to the NBA level. Now, he's 37.3% from three on screens. So again, he's a guy who's going to be very content with running around screens in order to get that open shot. In terms of his tendencies, where he likes to shoot, again, he's primarily a three-point shooter. He really loves that left wing. And besides the left wing, he's really content with staying in the corners and being a catch and shoot guy from the corner. And right away, that translates so well to the NBA because he's going to be the fourth or fifth best offensive option for his team when he steps out onto an NBA court. That's just how it goes for most rookies in the NBA. And those guys are always standing in the corners. So Jett Howard's a guy who's going to be knocking down those corner threes very early on to his NBA career. He has a really nice feel for the full court offensive game as well. He's Klay Thompson-esque in terms of once his team gets a defensive rebound, he's going to find the right spot on the court when he's running the court in order to get himself an open three from the transition. As I alluded to previously, he's a guy who does not mind contorting his body midair, squaring his shoulders, and getting a shot, which is also another reason why he's a good transition player. He can stop on a dime when running full speed and square up his shoulders and shoot a three. Something you won't necessarily tell from these highlights, but something when you really watch Jett Howard game in, game out, possession in and possession out, he's a very under underrated passer. He's a guy who right away in his NBA career, if he gets a significant amount of playing time, he could be one of those rare wings that gives you 4 to 5 assists per game. He has a really nice feel for the entire floor. He's an extremely willing and quick passer. He's one of those guys, if he has an open three that's slightly contested, he will gladly, with no hesitation, pass up that slightly open three for a wide open three. Michigan not only ran sets as him as the pick and ball roll handler, making really nice passes off of the pick and roll, but he's somebody who can be a small ball screener off the pick and roll, get the ball in the high post, and make a really nice pass from the high post as well, despite only being 6'8". Diving into his non-3-point game offensively, he loves those Michael Jordan 90s-esque mid-range turnarounds. While he didn't consistently make these shots in college, that's something that definitely projects very nicely into the NBA. If he can consistently make these turnaround J's from mid-range, that's definitely an added positive for Jett Howard. Because he's such a threat from the three-point arc, there has been teams in college that have ran him off the three-point arc, and at times he's definitely shown the ability to go to his right hand and have a solid floater from his right hand from the right side of the court. Now, diving into some of his negatives, he really has 3 main negatives, one of which is that left hand. He definitely has shown to favor his right hand in college, and while his handle seems adequate with his left hand, he definitely doesn't like to go to his left hand when he puts the ball on the court, and he's not somebody who's really going to be operating as a strong finisher to the basket with his left hand. And then his second and third weakness really tie hand in hand together. They really do go together. And that is his on-ball defense and his lack of athletic traits, really his lack of high-end athletic traits. Now, he really just does not have great quickness or lateral agility on the perimeter whatsoever, not only offensively, but again, more importantly, defensively. And I'll be completely honest, Jett Howard is a pure 3. He's one of those players in a position basketball world nowadays. He's somebody who definitely has to be pigeonholed into a position. He really can only play the 3, the small forward at the NBA level, and it really is because of his defense. The 1s and 2s, the guards out there are simply too laterally quick, they're too shifty, and they're too explosive for Jett Howard to guard at the NBA level. They're going to consistently bully him in the pick and roll. If he has to guard 1s and 2s, again, it's kind of game over. He really cannot guard a 1 or a 2 all that much unless they are a guy who have a similar game to Jett Howard in the sense of they're just going to be camping out on the perimeter for those 3s. And then you look at him against power forwards and centers, he's just not strong enough at the moment as a young 19-year-old turning 20 this year. He's simply not strong enough to keep up with power forwards and center strengths at the NBA level. So he's definitely someone who can benefit from adding some weight onto his frame so he can play the 3 and the 4. I don't think he's a guy who can lose some weight and then play the 3 and the 2 in the NBA. It's going to be more of he's going to play that small forward, power forward position. Something he also somewhat struggles with is his transition defense. He plays very upright. He's not a guy who's going to attack in an athletic basketball stance per se. And again, they did attack him because of this in the pick and roll on the perimeter. And lastly, where that lack of athleticism really hurts him is that field goal percentage. So I alluded to earlier, he's a really good shooter and he's a really good offensive player. He has really nice shooting splits from 3, yet his overall field goal percentage is 41.4%, and that's because he consistently struggled to get to the rim at the college level. Something that amazed me with one of these stats, all year he only had 3 dunks in the half-court offense, and from a 6'8" 3, that's definitely not a positive for Jett. He's definitely somebody who has a bit of a lower athletic upside profile to him. His vertical isn't going to be all that high, and he really does not generate all that much burst from his jump and from his leap. Now, that's something that definitely I think will get better in terms of the powerlifting and just the training regimen of the NBA, but he's never going to be somebody who's going to be in a dunk contest, let's just put it that way. And though he does have a lot of potential to be a good one-on-one scorer with his perimeter upside in terms of his shooting, he really likes that sidestep three. He does have a nice floater. He has a nice mid-range shot, and he really does like that turnaround mid-range as I talked about before. But at college, he somewhat struggled with very athletic perimeter defenders that really did lock him up. So he's more of a guy who you want playing off ball once he enters the NBA. And once he develops some of those athletic traits and gets that mid-range jump shot to go consistently, that's when, year 3, year 4, that's when he'll start to become a good one-on-one player. All in all, I honestly really like Jett Howard's game. I know he has a bit of deficiencies on the defensive end, but offensively, he's going to come in and he's going to be a phenomenal player from day one. He's somebody who offensively has a very high floor to him because of his three-point shooting, because of that beautiful release that he does possess. That's something that just translates so well into the NBA as closeout times get way quicker in the NBA. He's someone who's going to have no problem with the closeout speed of NBA players. And again, he is a guy who can shoot from range, so that NBA range certainly will not be a problem for Jett Howard. My pro comp to Jett Howard, I absolutely love this pro comp. These guys have very similar skill sets, very similar strengths, very similar weaknesses, and this is a guy who really hit later on in the NBA draft. And I'm of course talking about Desmond Bane. Now they have somewhat of a different physique, they have somewhat of a different frame, but outside of the physical, when you look at their strengths, weaknesses, and what they do on a basketball court, they have very similar play styles. Thanks for listening, guys. What are your thoughts on Jett Howard? I'm a big Lakers fan, so I would love to see the Lakers draft Jett Howard, but let me know what your favorite team is and do you want them drafting Jett Howard?